Hello 3D printing friends! Today on the BB3D channel I'll show you how I cut nearly 5 hours off a 19-hour print by using this one simple trick. Stick around and we'll get into it right after this. I'm Brian and you are watching BV3D. Hi, welcome back. Hey, if you're new here and you're wanting to learn about 3D printing, 3D modeling, and other 3D printing related stuff, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Okay, so today we're going to see a way to decrease print times. Now, just to set the stage a little bit, I'm a patron of ClockSpring, who's the designer of some truly amazing things. Among those truly amazing things is this containment vessel known as the Neutron tube. It comes in 4 sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large. This is the small one. It's about the size of a 12-ounce soft drink can, so it's not really that small. Well, I guess it's small compared to the large one. But anyway, these things are neat. They're a container with a hinged lid and a threaded ring to keep that lid closed. And it's all one model printed all at once in place with no assembly necessary. I recommend you check out ClockSpring's Patreon page where you can join up and get access to this and lots more really cool things to print. Because the Neutron tube really is pretty cool, even the small one. And despite being small, the small one can hold a surprising quantity of peanut M&Ms. But there's a problem. These can take a while to print. Quite a while. Even the small one. For this video, I'm using my trusty old Ender 3 Pro, and I'm going to print 2 more of the small Neutron tubes. I'm using Prusa Slicer's standard 0.2 millimeter normal print settings for it. The print settings have a layer height of 0.2 millimeters, 15% infill, 2 perimeters, 4 bottom layers, and 5 top layers. And after slicing it, we can see it'll take an estimated 19 hours to print. And that's fine. After a while, you get used to how long it takes to make things with a 3D printer. Now, one of the things I've noticed about Prusa Slicer is that it tends to set its extrusion width to a little bit wider than the diameter of the nozzle's orifice. So for a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, Prusa has most of its extrusion widths set to 0.45 millimeters. Well, wait, how can that be? How can the printer extrude wider than the hole in the nozzle? Well, the answer is easily. The slicer tells the printer to extrude a little more plastic than would be necessary for a 0.4 millimeter extrusion. And the nozzle doesn't come down to a needle-sharp point. It has a flat spot on the tip that's about a millimeter wide, and the 0.4 millimeter hole is drilled in the center of that. So when the printer extrudes a little bit more plastic, the nozzle kind of irons it out flat as it goes. And because the slicer is controlling all of this, it spaces the extrusions out a little bit more to accommodate the extra plastic. So we saw that Prusa Slicer says it'll take 19 hours to print the Neutron tube. That isn't too terrible, I guess. But I want to see if I can speed things up a bit. So given that Prusa Slicer already specifies an extrusion width larger than the nozzle's bore, I want to see what will happen if I add another 0.2 millimeters to that width, making the extrusions 0.65 millimeters wide. In theory, with everything else being the same, layer height, number of perimeters, number of top and bottom layers, and printing speed, using a wider extrusion width should require fewer extrusions per layer. So let's see what happens when I change the 0.4 millimeter extrusion widths to 0.65. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to set them all to that width. Also, just a note, you can do this in Cura too. Search for line width and make the changes there. Okay, extrusion widths have been changed. Now I'll slice the model again, and with that one simple change, this print has gone from an estimated 19 hours to an estimated 14 hours. That's a savings of 5 hours, meaning it'll print about 25% faster. That would be pretty freaking amazing if it could really do that. Well, there was only one way to find out. I printed the small Neutron tube with both settings, the standard extrusion width and the fat extrusion width in Polymaker's Polyterra Pastel Mint PLA. A lot of P's in there. Sadly, however, I forgot to get time lapses of these. I just didn't think about it until they were done. Anyhow, I printed them both because I wanted to find out a couple of things. First, I wanted to find their actual print times, and second, I wanted to compare the print quality between the two. Specifically, I want to see if using an extrusion width of 0.65 millimeters with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle had any obvious flaws. So the one with the standard extrusion width finished printing in 18 hours and 11 minutes, and the one with the fat extrusion width finished printing in 13 hours and 38 minutes. That's still almost 5 hours faster. Now I'm going to show you a 360-degree close-up view of both of these prints at the same time. The one on the left I'll call print A, and the one on the right I'll call print B. Take a good look, and what I want you to do is leave a comment. Which one is which? Is print A the one with the 0.65 millimeter extrusion widths, or is it print B? I'll reveal which is which in just a moment. Now I mentioned that these were both printed in Polymaker's Polyterra PLA in the pastel mint color. Models printed in Polyterra have a nice matte texture to them, and pastel mint is a nice color. I might end up using these to put some Easter candy in. Pastels and Easter just kind of go together. Okay, now it's time for the reveal. The one on the left, print A, was printed with a 0.65 millimeter extrusion width, and the one on the right, print B, was printed with the standard 0.45 millimeter extrusion width. And honestly, just looking at them, I don't see any difference whatsoever. One is no better or worse than the other. The only way I can tell them apart is by looking at the lids. Since the Neutron tube prints upside down, the top of the lids is actually the first layer of the print. And on the one that was printed with the 0.65 millimeter extrusion width, if you look closely, you'll see that the lines are just a little bit wider than on the standard one. But print quality wise, I don't see any difference at all. Now, I don't expect this to be the case for every single model you could ever want to print, but it might be worth experimenting with extrusion widths. So this is one more little trick to keep up your 3D printing sleeve that you can use if you're in a pinch and you need a speed boost on a print. And the great thing is, it doesn't require you to actually install a different nozzle. It's just a quick little change in your slicer. Well, 3D printing friends, that's about all the time we have for this episode. And now that we're at the end, let's go print something fat. I mean, cool. Hey, real quick before you go, I wanted to say thanks for being one of the super awesome people who sticks around all the way to the end, and thanks for all the likes, comments, and shares. And an especially big thanks to those of you who directly support what I do. You're all wonderful for doing that, and I really appreciate it. If you liked this episode, a thumbs up would be great, and if you'd like to help support the channel, check the description for ways you can do exactly that. And hey, if you haven't already subscribed, please do. It's absolutely free, and it's an excellent way to help keep me making these videos for you. Well, that's it for this one. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time here on the BB3D channel.